Hey everyone, welcome back. It's taken a little bit of time to address this topic as I've been busy. Many of you have been asking me of my thoughts on the shield gating changes, as well as how it will affect my builds. I can wholeheartedly say that I welcome these changes and are 99% of the time all-round buffs. That 1% I'll get to in a second. But my stance has always been that so long as a system or mechanic becomes more intuitive, not brain dead, but logical, and opens up new avenues of play in the game, then it is a good change. I genuinely don't understand the frustration some people have about the changes, especially because people seem to complain about any kind of change whatsoever, be it useful or not. Also, Fortitude is being buffed to plus 40% knockdown resist, so for those that don't have Prime Sure-Footed and don't want to use Uneru or Spellbind Helmet, well, now you can reach 100 resist with just Fortitude plus Sure-Footed. But first let's get the other elephant out of the room. The vast majority of my builds in the past 2 years rely on shield gating. Many of you asked if my builds will still work the same way after the shield gate changes drop. Yes, they will. Will I update all the builds I made in the past? No. I upload 100 to 200 times a year, and I do not have the time to update all those builds. Instead, what I recommend is finding the least important mod on the build and replacing it with the new corrupted mod. Compensate the missing mod with Archon shards. None of my builds are strict enough that they cannot easily be adapted this way. It takes a little bit of thinking, but it's simple as that. It's a build craft game. You adapt, or you die. The slightly higher total shields don't matter because the new corrupted mod reduces shield max by 80% instead of Decay Dragon Key reducing by 75% previously. Let's break the changes down. Total base shields are slightly higher than before. This has to do with normalized stat modding for health, shield, and armor. None of this stuff really matters, so I'm gonna skip over that. Now, for an important assumption, I quote, "Shield gate duration now scales with the amount of shields you had upon break," end quote. This is very vague wording. I'm going to assume that shield break duration scales with the highest amount of shields you reached before your shield broke. This is the same as how shield gating currently works. Otherwise, this leads to weird situations where an enemy deals 99% of your shield in one hit with the new update, then deleting the remaining 1% in the next hit and granting you only 0.33 seconds shield gate. I'm going to buy the assumption it tracks the highest shield since previous break, just like how it currently does, for this topic today. Shield gate duration is at minimum 0.33 seconds like before even post-update, and will scale up to 2.5 seconds upon reaching 1150 shields or overshields. Overshields are included in this calculation since they're added into the shield bar total as a single number during play. The growth of gate duration is not linear, with early shields giving more duration than later shields. To achieve the previous 1.3 seconds shield gate, you now need to reach around 325 shields before your next break. This means instead of a strict 0.33 seconds shield gate on partial and only 1.3 seconds on full shield regen, you now always get at least 0.33 seconds no matter what, and scaling upwards the more you invest into shields and allow them to recharge. 2.5 seconds max is a huge buff for setups that rely on Condemn or Pillage, two already popular helmets due to their strong crowd control and armor strip and cleanse capabilities. Any frame builds using those abilities basically get an instant 2.5 seconds shield gate option. Decay Dragon Key is being changed to cap your shield gate window to 0.33 seconds always. So basically, you no longer have to bring this key. And on top of that, it is actually a penalty to equip the key again so it retains its original purpose. Catalyzing Shield is a mod being added that changes how new shield gate works. In the 1 week after the shield gate update drops, it'll be available in an alert. Otherwise, you can obtain it from Deimos Orcan vaults. It also reduces your max shield by 80% instead of the decay key used to reducing by 75. This slight shield reduction difference is to account for frames having slightly higher base shields than before due to the base stat rework. Overall, you basically have the same amount of max shields as before once Catalyzing Shield is used. It's very easy to understand. New shield gate uses the graph I mentioned earlier. Equipping Catalyzing Shield instead grants shield gate equivalent to 1.33 seconds times percent of your shield max, with 0.33 seconds being the minimum. So if your max shield is now 100, then restoring all 100 shields grants 1.33 seconds. Restoring only 50 before you break grants 0.67 seconds or half. And restoring 25 shields and 10 shields both grant 0.33 seconds shield gate because the lowest you're allowed to go is 0.33 seconds. Let's get into why this is an improvement and what does it open up. The shield gating changes are good, because it does not prevent us from using any previous setup while giving higher shields a proper purpose. There are also more changes that affect shield-oriented frames such as Hildryn, which we will discuss later. Previously, there were only two ways to build a shield setup. You either built around shield gating windows to benefit from 1.3 seconds as much as possible, at the cost of difficult energy economy maintenance, or around making shields as tanky as possible. Now you'll be able to use shield gating builds, shield recharge delay builds, and shield tanking builds. Because shields were not as useful compared to health, including armor scaling and being able to use Hunter Adrenaline, shield tanking setups were rare. Post-update, shield gating setups will still be possible due to catalyzing shield setting a 1.3 second shield gate if you restore all shields, while also reducing max shields by 80% and giving a linear scaling to 1.3 seconds shield gate instead of just 0.33 versus 1.3 all or nothing. There is only one kind of shield gate build that this mod cannot fix. These are builds with zero leeway on modding space mechanically, and require 5 Archon shards as a baseline to even function. Even across the hundreds of gimmicky min-max builds I've made over the last few years, none of them are ruined by the shield gating changes. So I really don't understand what people are crying about. If your 1 in a million build becomes a tiny bit less effective, for the greater good of making shield tanking and gating more accessible for everybody else, who is the bigger asshole complaining here? The second option is completely new. Shield recharge delay builds are now going to be a thing. Prior to the upcoming October update, the only way to get shield recharge delay reduction were Vazarin's Guardian Shell and Break or Gauss's Battery passive. This is different than shield charge rate, like fast deflection or Vigilante Vigor. Shield recharge rate determines how fast shields charge when they are recharging. Shield recharge delay determines how long it takes before shields begin recharging after they take damage. The lower your delay, the sooner your shields recharge and the sooner you can benefit from partial or full shield gate again. Normally, shields take 4 seconds to begin recharging if fully empty, 1 second if they are partially damaged and not zeroed out. Gauss could create builds that had shorter recharge delays than the iframes granted from shield gating, making them essentially unkillable outside of toxin damage. And the Dagath update, Fast, Deflection, and Vigilante Vigor are being changed to shield recharge delay reduction, meaning for the first time, we have non-conclave mods that allow shields to start recharging sooner after taking damage. Recharge delay reduction does not work like casting speed or reload speed, where the total time is 1 divided by the modded amount, i.e. needing plus 100% to half the casting speed or reload time. Instead, recharge delay is calculated as 1 minus the final modded delay reduction. So 80% reduction is literally 80% reduction, needing only 20% of the time to start regenerating shields. But sources of reduction are multiplicative to each other. In other words, it gets very confusing, but for layman's terms, treat it like this. It's the same way how adaptation and damage reduction works. If I stack 90% damage reduction with another 90%, then now we have 99% of damage reduction. How? Because it's basically taking 10% damage times 10% damage, or taking 1% damage. A Gauss with max battery had by default 80% delay reduction, meaning it only took him 0.2 seconds instead of 1 second to start regenerating from partial shields, or 0.8 seconds instead of 4 seconds to start regenerating from a full shield break. This made shield gating Gauss builds OP, because a brief respite Augur build could grant 1.3 seconds full shield gate currently, but he only needed 0.8 seconds to start recharging. Therefore, any ability based build that could fully restore shields would grant iframes that last longer than his shield recharge window. On a partial gate Gauss build, Vazarin granted 90% delay reduction, which would stack with Gauss's 80% from his battery passive, leaving him with a 98% delay reduction overall, or taking only 0.02 seconds to regenerate on partial shield breaks, and 0.08 seconds to start regenerating on a full shield break, which is obviously faster than even 0.33 seconds partial shield gating iframes. After the update, every frame will be able to do this in some capacity. Fast Deflection is being changed to minus 45% recharge delay, and Vigilante Vigor is being changed to minus 30% recharge delay. If you use these together, you get minus 61.5% recharge delay overall, or partial shields taking 0.385 seconds to regen, and full breaks taking 1.4 seconds to begin their regen. The partial shield regen delay is only important for shield tanking builds versus shield gating builds, but with enough damage reduction stacked, it is worth it. I want to talk about that full break 1.54 seconds to begin regen. On frames that use Condemn or Pillage, you will now be able to double shield gate if you equip Fast Deflection and Vigilante Vigor. This is because these abilities easily generate more than 1,150 shields required for the maximum new 2.5 seconds full shield gate. In fact, Fast Deflection alone is enough because it cuts shield recharge delay on a full break down to just 2.2 seconds, which is still shorter than 2.5 seconds. On Hildryn specifically, this is huge because prior to the October update, she is useless when her shields break. Your only solution was drop a shield pad, which is still a really good solution, otherwise you had to wait on Rolling Guard and Operator so that her shields could regenerate. Now, if you equip at least Fast Deflection on her, her shields will begin to regenerate after only 2.2 seconds, or 1.54 seconds if you have both Vigilante Vigor and Fast Deflection. But she is also getting buffed from 3 seconds to 3.5 seconds shield gate this October if her shields fully restored before they break again. This means instead of being left to sit as a duck, she will now be able to cast Pillage again before her health is hittable. A huge plus for turning the shield gate gimmick frame into finally being able to actually cast abilities during her shield gate gimmick instead of needing to drop a shield pad. This 3.5 seconds will carry over to allies linked by her Haven, meaning any team setup with Hildryn can now use 3.5 second shield gate strats with Fast Deflection too, for the 2.2 seconds regen delay. For endurance setups, you can now combine Vazarin's Guardian Break, which lasts 8 seconds, with Fast Deflection to achieve shield regeneration times below 0.33 seconds, something that previously only Gauss can do. That, combined with Arcane Aegis, now grants you significantly larger windows of safety than just spamming Protective Sling alone in the past. Now you can use Aegis, Protective Sling, Fast Deflection, and Guardian Break to consistently achieve over 10 seconds of iframes on any frame in the game on Vazarin in any piece of content, which obviously would be useful for endurance. Finally, shield tanking builds are rather brain dead and simple. You just stack adaptation with damage reduction abilities, be it innate to the frames kit or mods like Aviator or augments, Parkour 75 resist, Ancient Healer Spectres, etc., stacking multiplicatively to reach 99% damage reduction on shields or higher. I should not need to explain these much, but they're also buffed by these changes, because shields will have a 50% all resist with the October update instead of the current 25% all resist. You may also consider Fast Deflection and or Vigilante Vigor to cut down on shield recharge delay if you manage to make shields tanky enough so that they can naturally regen damage they tank sooner. On Hildryn, the shield gate changes, shield recharge delay options, and shield tanking changes, triple dip and being buffs all around applying to her, massively improving her survivability and scaling content. Also remember, now that companion reworks are also coming along smoothly, if you need more Augur mods for shield recharge and are using a DPS pistol, Jhin with Augur mods on a burst laser will become an even better option, since those Augur mods carry over still to your main loadout set bonus. But Sentinels will be much easier to revive moving forwards, as primed regen already cuts down respawn time from 60 to just 25 seconds, before considering the bond mods that can cut it down even further. Cheers! If this is your first time watching, feel free to leave a like or better yet subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. 79.5% if you're not subscribed, I'm trying my best to get you new information out always as soon as possible, like I've been doing with the dev stream updates. Stick around if you want to see interesting memes and builds on a nearly daily basis. You don't want to miss out on any of that, do you? That'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching and see you all next time.